that because the MIPS processor is being used in recent processors, particularly the embedded systems market has been captured a lot by this particular MIPS processor, and it is finding places in the general computers also. So that is why the MIPS processor study is inevitable as a part of the computer organization subject. Uh, Even in the universities, international repute universities like uh, MIT, uh, which is from the United States of America. So there also this particular processor is being taught as an example, and that too right from the beginning without referring to the other processors. So that is why we have also taken decision to include this particular processor. So in the beginning, you may find it little difficult to understand the architecture or the the uh, instruction set of this particular processor, uh, because I am taking it the way it has been given in the book of Patterson, and because we need to cover it within the specified units, though I shall be conducting more lectures on it, though this particular unit is to be covered within 8 to 10 lectures, but uh, I shall cover it to the understanding of all of you, even if we require uh, few more lectures. Okay, so let us start with this particular processor. In the last class, I gave you introduction to this particular processor, and some part of it we could see, and that time the slides were not available. Okay, so let us take to the introduction. That is, whenever we are designing any processor, there are certain factors you should look into, or any processor or any computer. The CPU performance factors that we have already discussed, which includes the instruction count, how much is the instruction count, what is the CPI, that is clock cycles per instruction for that processor or that computer, what is the cycle time, so it is determined by the CPU hardware. Then how this particular MIPS is implemented, so that we are going to study here, and later on we shall go to the pipelined version. Okay, so this is very much important. The high level of pipelining, which is supported by MIPS kind of processor, is not supported by the processor of the other type, its rivals, that is the CIS type of processors, that is the Pentium and all that. Okay, though Pentium processors from Intel, they claim that they also use the pipelining concept, but the level of pipelining that is being used in case of this particular MIPS processor is far or much way ahead than that of the Intel processors. The characteristics of this MIPS processor, which is of the RISC type, is the simple subset and shows most aspect, that is for memory reference only the instructions like LW and SW, that is load word, store word, are used. For performing arithmetic and logic operations. The instructions like add, subtract, ADD stand for add, SUB for subtract, for logical operation and or, and the instructions like SLT. Uh, uh, I will let you know that is what is that SLT long form. The control transfer instructions like BEQ, that is branch if equal, then J stands for the jump instruction, like that. Very less number of instructions and very simple instructions with less number of you can say um, addressing modes. Okay, so again, you are not yet aware about what is the addressing mode and all that. Okay, but addressing mode is one of the important aspect in the design of any processors. So if more addressing modes are proposed, then there will be more number of there will be the architecture will be complex. Okay, whereas this processor, it supports very less number of addressing modes. uh, so its architecture is simple, and because of it, it is possible to implement the high level of or instruction level of pipelining. Okay, so instruction level of pipelining is less supported by the processors like the Intel processors. Okay, uh, so how are the instructions executed, so that you should have the idea about how these instructions are executed. Uh, as you are aware, instructions are stored in the memory, and these instructions need to be fetched from the memory. For the processor like the MIPS processor, which uses the hardware architecture, the instruction memory and the data memory are different. So the instruction is to be fetched from the instruction memory. The address of the instruction, okay, the memory have the addresses. They are identified with the address. Every memory has unique address, and whenever instruction is to be fetched from the instruction memory, or whenever data is to be fetched from the data memory, the memory is to be given the address. Memory should be submitted with the appropriate address. So as far as the address of the instruction memory is to be addressed, the address always comes from a special register, and that particular register is called PC, that is program counter. Program counter, as its name specifies, so program is supposed to be stored in the memory, that is the instruction memory, and which particular part of the program is being executed, and in that uh, particularly which instruction is to be executed next. So that particular address is being contained by this particular register PC. So PC contains the address of the next instruction to be fetched from the instruction memory. So that address is given to the instruction memory, and the instruction is fetched. Then there are number of registers inside the this particular processor. You may call it as register file. These registers can be read, even if required data can be written to this particular register, and depending on the type of instruction or instruction class, the ALU is going to perform the various operation. For example, ALU is the arithmetic and logic unit. It may perform the arithmetic operation, or the operation may not be directly related to ALU, it may be related to memory, that is loading the data from the memory or storing the data from the memory. So in that case, the role of the ALU is to calculate the address, memory address of the data memory. Okay, so the load and store instructions are there for the purpose of loading the data from memory or storing the data to the data memory, and in that case there is a specific addressing mode, and in that the role of the ALU is to calculate the address. Okay, so simple additions would be required to calculate the address of the memory where the operand is there. Whereas there may be the instruction may be the branch instruction, and in that case again ALU takes parts in calculating the branch target address. Okay, so though ALU is meant for basically performing arithmetic and logic operations, but in addition to the arithmetic and logic operations, it supports the processor in calculating the data memory addresses and calculating the branch target addresses. That is, in case of the branch instruction, the address of the next instruction to be fetched is not in the next memory location. It is uh, somewhere backward. Okay, you need to skip certain number of instructions, that is called the forward jump, or you go back to many instructions, and that is called the backward jump instruction. Okay, later on the processor has to access the data memory or load or store depending on that. Okay, and the operation is performed, the said operation in the instruction is performed. The instruction contains the machine code that indicates what operation is to be performed, and upon that the ALU is going to act. And after the operation is performed, the PC usually in the normal case, what it does is that the current contents of PC are added with 4, because every instruction is of 4 bytes. So the next instruction in the memory is supposed to be at the 4 bytes after the current instruction. So 4 have been added, 4 are added to the content of PC, so that PC points the next instruction if the current instruction is not the branching instruction. Okay, in case if the current instruction is branching instruction, the contents of PC would be changed depending on how many instructions are to be skipped or how many instructions are to be going. The processor need to go back. Okay, whenever instruction is fetched, the complete instruction, that is all 4 bytes from the memory, are fetched, and then that particular instruction is decoded for the operation. Okay, so this is overall instruction execution sequence. So once one instruction is executed, the processor now has the address of the next instruction. So next instruction is fetched. Okay, so the address is always contained by the PC, that is program counter. Okay, so this is how the instructions are executed in any processor. Okay, so it may be it RISC processor or CISC processor. The instructions, the program is stored in the memory, and the instructions are continuously fetched, they are decoded, they are executed, and then you have some register in every processor called program counter. In some processors it is called instruction pointer, or different names are given in the different, maybe given in the different processors, and the program is executed in this particular fashion. Okay, as we discussed in the last class, this is the architecture of the MIPS processor. Okay, so we shall be going into the details of each and every part as to how it functions. So to see, in the beginning there is a program counter, there is instruction memory, the input to the instruction memory is the address of the memory, comes from the program counter. Output of the instruction memory is the instruction which is selected by this particular address. Okay, this particular instruction is given to the decoder. Not shown here. The decoder generates the control signal. Again, it is not specifically shown. It is shown only with the single lines, but these are not single lines. These are multiple lines. We shall see it later. Then you have the register blocks. So depending on what operations are to be performed, the certain registers are selected here, and ALU performs operations depending on what is that particular instruction. It may be arithmetic logic instruction, and ALU produces the result. If it is related to the data memory, then the role of the ALU, as discussed, is to calculate the address of the data memory. Okay, so if ALU is calculating address of the data memory, it will be given to the data memory. If ALU is working on some numbers, performing certain arithmetic and logic operation, the result of the ALU is given back to the register and it will be written into the register. Okay, so this is the array of registers, and the instruction specifies from which register the data is to be read and is to be given to the ALU, and to which particular register the resultant operation is to be stored. There are as many as 32 registers, and that is called register file in this particular MIPS processor. Okay. So like this, you have the ALU, that is arithmetic and logic unit, which is followed by this register file. The ALU is followed by this particular data memory. Okay, and the data memory always receives the address from the ALU. Then data memory may receive the data which may be required to be stored into it. Okay, so the purpose of the data memory is either to store the data. So when write operation is performed, data is stored into the memory. Okay, it will be given from here, whereas the other operation that can be performed on the data memory is read operation. Okay, so in that case the address is given, and in case of read memory, the contents of that particular memory are sent out on this particular outputs, and it will be read, and it will be read in the sense that it will be taken into some registers. Okay, so two operations are there with the data memory. One is the store operation, with which the contents of some register are stored into the data memory, or the load operation, in which the contents of some data memory is loaded into the into one of the register. Okay, so two basic operations are there. Then at the top you can see there are two different adders. Okay, the first adder is the default adder, and many times this adder is used to add just 4 to the current contents of the program counter PC, so that the PC can be modified to contain the address of the next instruction. As it is already discussed, the next instruction will be after 4 locations, and that address will be contained by PC. Okay, after the current instruction is being fetched. Okay, but in case of branch instruction, then this particular second adder is used, and depending on what is that particular instruction, so it is the branch instruction, and depending on the operation of that particular instruction, the new address is calculated. That is how many address locations are to be skipped, or you need to go back. Okay, for example, this number is some number which is which can be a positive number, or which can be a negative number, and in that case that positive number or negative number is added to this, and in that case the result of the second added the result of the second adder is rather stored into the PC. Okay, you can see here simply that either the output of first adder is going here, or the output of the second order adder is going here. So which particular output will go here? So here it is this is not a simple junction here, so it is a multiplexer. Okay, so you need to use multiplexer here, and or it is multiplexer is being used here, and depending on this particular instruction, either the output of first adder is given to the PC, or output of the second adder is given to the PC. So that depends on the type of instruction. If it is a simple instruction, if it is a not a branch instruction or a non-branch instruction, then in that case always the address of output of the first adder is given to the PC. But if it is a branching instruction, then in that case the output of the second adder is given to the PC. Okay, so in the similar fashion here, as you understood that there is a multiplexer here, so you can see that there are many places where there can be, or there will be a multiplexer. So the detailed architecture we shall see in the due course. Okay, so this is the overview of the architecture. So if some part you are not yet understood in this, how this particular processor will function, we are throughout this particular unit we are going to elaborate the operation of this particular processor only. Okay, so you can see here that these are not just wires that are tied together. Okay, so what we need to do is that what is done here is that the multiplexers are being used here. Okay, so you can see here this particular diagram shows much more details here. So so this particular multiplexer, what it does, it has the inputs from the output of the first adder, or it has the input from the output of the second adder, and its output is either the output of the first adder or output of the second adder. So it is controlled by this particular line, select line. So there is a single select line. So this is 2 input 1 output multiplexer, that is 2:1 multiplexer. So this particular instruction or this particular AND gate, it specifies that, so if this particular AND gate calculates whether it is a branch instruction. In case of the conditional branch instruction, the result is computed by the ALU, and ALU tells whether the jump is to be caused or the jump is not to be caused. Okay, so if the condition is evaluated by ALU, and if the jump is to be caused, then this output of the ALU will be 1. It is a branch instruction, so when both the inputs are 1, the output is 1. So multiplexer will select the output of the second adder. Okay, whereas if it is not a branch instruction, output of this so this particular branch input will be 0, and in that case the multiplexer will select the output of the first adder. Okay, from where this particular branch input comes, you can see the branch input comes from this particular control unit. Okay, so the control unit, it reads the instruction, what is the instruction, and after the instruction is decoded, the control unit will come to know that whether it is a branch instruction or it is not a branch instruction. If it is a branch instruction, its branch output will be 1. If it is not a branch instruction, its branch output will be 0. Okay, like that the control unit generates many control signals. Okay, so though some of the control signals have been shown here, but many of the control signals, they are not being shown here. And in the earlier diagram also this control unit was not shown, but control unit is one of the most important part of any processor. Now, this control unit is preceded by instruction decoder. Instruction decoder is the unit which decodes the instruction. So after decoding the instruction, the processor comes to know what is that instruction. Okay, so the instruction for a processor can be add instruction, it can be subtract instruction, it can be a logical instruction like OR instruction, AND instruction, it can be instruction related to memory, that is load from data memory, it can be instruction again related to memory, that is store something into the memory. So it understand, the instruction decoder has to understand depending on the group of zeros and one which are there in the instruction, and need to perform the appropriate operation and need to generate the appropriate signal. So what signals are generated for the data memory by the control signal? So it tells whether the memory is required to be read. Okay, so whether the read operation is to be performed on the memory, or it specifies whether a write operation is to be performed on the memory. It tells again this particular multiplexer whether the input is to be taken directly from the instruction which is read, or the input to the second operand to the ALU is to be taken from the register. Okay, then it tells which is yes, it is shown here, it tells to the ALU. Okay, you can see here this particular line coming from the control unit, the all blue lines, they are the control lines. So it tells the ALU which operation is to be performed, whether it is arithmetic operation, and in arithmetic particularly add, subtract, or the other operations supported, or the logical operations. So it tells the ALU which operation is to be performed. Of course, this is not the single line. With single line, it is not possible to specify that particular operation. You need multiple lines. So all these particular lines need not or may not be the single lines. They are group of lines. Okay. So like this, the control unit gives or generates the control signal for each and every component, or you can say the block in this particular processor. It generates the control signal for the registers also, that is register, write, and like this. Okay, so all of them, they are not shown here. So there are many more control signals that are generated here. If we show each and every control signal, then this particular diagram will be much complicated. Okay, so this is the control. Now how this is being achieved. Okay, so a very brief history has been given in the book. We have already discussed all these things, that is the digital electronics parts. So this particular processor is built with the digital electronic circuit which understand only 0 and 1. Then combinational logic circuits are used in that, as well as the sequential logic circuits are used there. Combination logic circuits, they consist of the multiplexers, demultiplexers, adders, subtractors, and all this like this thing. Whereas the major sequential logic circuit, they are the flip-flops. Okay, so register, they are made out of the flip-flops, and they are the store elements. Of course, the memory is also implemented with the help of the group of flip-flops. Okay, of course, there is a difference between the memory and the registers. Okay, the registers are implemented by using the highest, you can say, the technology, so that the operations with the registers is very fast, is very faster. Okay, so register is a kind of memory, so they are used to store your data only. Okay, but it is less in number. There are few in number, that is only 32 registers are there. Whereas if you see the characteristics of the memory, maybe instruction memory or data memory, so they are also used, they may be also used using the flip-flops and like that. Okay, but many times in earlier processors, this memory was implemented not exactly like the flip-flops. Okay, for example, the static memory is implemented using flip-flop, but dynamic memory is not implemented using flip-flop. The way is different, but most of the MIPS processor, they implement this particular instruction memory, data memory using static memory. Usually the cache memory is implemented using the flip-flops, whereas the rest of the memory, in case when you need huge amount of memory, then that is the DRAM, that is dynamic RAM, and that is implemented using the other type of memory. Of course, there is a separate unit on the memory, and we shall go into the details of that later. Okay. So these are the combination elements and multiplexer, arithmetic and logic unit, adder, and all these things. So they will be used to build this particular thing. The sequential element. So one of the most important sequential element is the resistor. So D flip-flop is being shown here, whereas the other flip-flops, that is JK flip-flops and T flip-flops, are also sequential element, but as far as only storing of the data is concerned, then most of the time the D flip-flop is used. Okay, you can see here that the this particular diagram has been shown, and in this timing diagram, the operation of the D flip-flop is being shown, which is the age triggered flip-flop. It is the positive age triggered flip-flop. The symbol tells that. Okay, so at the positive age, the whatever is the input at the D, so that according to that the Q output is going to change here. Okay, so here this particular instant, it indicates that change in the state of this particular Q. Okay, so if D is changing here at this time, then immediately it is not reflected in the output. So when the next positive edge comes, then at that time the Q output will respond to the change in the input here. Okay. Again here you can see that again D is changing, but immediately Q, that is the output, is not changing, and when the next positive edge comes, then at that time the Q is going to change. Okay, so that is why D, that stands for delay flip-flop. The output Q changes after some delay. Okay, so that delay depends on at what time this particular D input has been changed, and from that time how much it takes to come to the next clock pulse. Okay, so D may change asynchronously, randomly at any time. Fortunately, if D changes just before the this particular you can say rising age of the clock, then you are able to see immediately the changes in the output. Whereas unfortunately, if D changes immediately just after the rising age has gone, then in that case the flip-flop will exhibit more delay to change its output. Okay, so usually the the sequential logic circuit, they are used with the combination logic circuit, as we have discussed in case of the counters also. In addition to the resistors, you need to have combination logic circuit so that you can implement the required circuit. Okay, so the combination logics transfer the data during the block cycles, between block cycles, and input from the state elements, output to the state elements, and the longest delay is determined by the clock period. Okay, so what is the role of the combination logic circuit is that they changes the state of the element, the state of the flip-flop. So the flip-flop may be set or reset, and finally it will the next state will be set or reset. Here the combination logic may work on the group of elements, and in that case the group of elements will undergo the state change. Okay, So the actual diagram, it can be drawn in this particular fashion. That is, input is taken from the state element, combinational logic applies those particular rules and or logic, you can say, and it gives back again to the state element, so that the state of this element will change. Okay, so that happens in one clock period. Okay, now the most important part that we shall be studying is how this particular processor is built, uh, what is the role of each and every unit, and how that particular unit functions inside MIPS, how is the instruction set of the MIPS processor, and according to that particular instruction, how operations are being done in the MIPS processor. So that will be the part of the next class. Okay, so if you have any doubts up to this, you can ask. Uh, we have started with this particular MIPS processor, and deliberately today I have taken only the uh, introductory part of this particular MIPS processor. I have introduced you the whole MIPS processor, but again we shall be going into the details of this particular MIPS processor. Okay. In the beginning, you may find some part of this tough to understand because yet the tough part has not started. But if you are understanding right from the beginning the architecture, the instruction set, then there won't be any problem understanding the more tougher part. Okay, so I am going to alert you that in the next few lectures we shall be going to the concept which are not very easy to understand unless you have the concrete foundation for those particular concepts. So even if we need to spend more time on this particular foundation, the fundamentals, then does not matter. You can ask your queries, and if you do not have queries, then only we shall move further. So immediately you can ask the queries, or you can remind me in the beginning of the next class, maybe on the Monday or in the next week. So you can come up with the queries, and then we shall go forward with this particular processor. So any queries right now? Have you understood this? Already I have started uploading the video lectures, and few have already been uploaded, and in the time to come, whatever lectures we have conducted, so there will be the video lectures will be available, and hereafter regularly the recorded videos and video lectures will be available on the LMS, so that if you are not understood, again and again you can go through some part of the lecture on the LMS. Yes, students, any doubt, any query for now? I could see that again half of the class is present. Yes, do you have any test immediately? I hope I am audible. Am I audible? Otherwise,
Yes, sir, you are audible.
so
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
otherwise the whole class that I taught would have been in vain. So I ensure that I log on with other device also to ensure that I am in the class. So have you understood what we have discussed today?
Yes, sir.
Hmm? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So based on this, we shall now build the more and more concepts, so that when we go to the pipeline concept, okay, so first of all, the architecture you should understand. Without pipeline, how the operation, how the instructions are executed inside the MIPS processor, and then we shall go for the pipeline architecture of the MIPS. Okay. Uh, so we shall stop for now. I hope all of you have marked your attendance. Uh, so you may be having now another class or another test. So you can join that. In the next class, if you have any queries, I shall come to those queries. Okay, but in the next class, if any queries are there, you need to remind me in the beginning itself. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all of you may leave the class. Few students are काय झालं त्यांना काय म्हणते ती? आई काय म्हणते अच्छा. Anjali Mali, are you there? Anjali. Saurabh Game, are you there? Leave the session.
Yes, sir.
Siddesh Sagar, are you there? Leave the session. Not there.